Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter, that is linked down in the description, and on my channel page right over here. And join the Discord, that is also linked down in the description. But today's video is going to be a video that I've actually done twice in the past before, and it is the 2020 presidential election based on polling data. Now, polls are not always accurate. They're not as inaccurate as some people say they were in 2016. It was just the analysis of the polling data that was inaccurate. But I've done videos on this before, and as you'll see when I do this video, that it is a lot different actually than what the data shows before, than what the polling shows before. And you have to admit, yes, early polling is a bit misleading. If you look at 2016, you can see Hillary Clinton was up a lot more than it turned out to be on election day or at some other points in the campaign. Things can obviously change, but this is what the polling data is right now based off of May 14th, 2020, when I'm recording and uploading this video. And so I'm just going to be going through the states. I have the RCP electoral map here. I've just filled in all these states that either don't have any polling data or are going to be going by safe margins regardless. And then we're just going to go through these states they rate as toss-ups and seeing how they would go if the 2020 election was based entirely off polling data. So first we'll start off with the state of Nevada here. The state of Nevada only has one poll that semi-recently was a poll from January by Fox News showing that Biden was up by 8 points. The most recent poll before that was back in October that had Trump up by 2 points, but I'm not going to use that. And so just based off of that one poll, which is a very spotty poll, Fox News is usually doing well for the Democrats in terms of polling, and so that state would still be by a likely margin there. The next city is going to be the state of Colorado here. The state of Colorado, we have one poll. It's from obviously August of last year, which doesn't really show us much, but it does show that Colorado is going by a safe margin. While that probably won't happen this year, maybe the couple next elections it could happen, but that's what the polling shows there. The one poll from Mexico, which is from January here, shows Biden up by 8 points here, which would effectively mean that there's a tie or a split in the an even split of the Gary Johnson vote. Gary Johnson was the Republican governor of the state of New Mexico. Hillary Clinton won it in 2016 by 8 points, with Gary Johnson getting 9% of the vote. For it to still be an 8% margin, Gary Johnson's vote would effectively have to be split, or Donald Trump would have to lose some support overall here. The next state that we're going to be going to down here is the state of Arizona. And Arizona is actually an interesting state because it shows Biden up by a lean margin. This is a state that went to Donald Trump by 3.5 percentage points. The polls were actually almost dead on in this state. They showed Trump winning by 4. He won by 3.5 points. And in the state of Arizona right now, we can see almost every single poll shows him up. Every single poll since back in December has shown him up. Only one poll out of over a dozen, have shown that Biden is going to lose, and this is going to be a very interesting state if Biden can actually pull this off. But as of now, it shows Biden winning by a lean margin. The next state is the state of Texas, which has shown that it could be competitive. Well, I don't think it'll be actually this competitive, where Biden is probably, in all likelihood, not going to win the state. It is going to be closer, I do believe, and the RCP average shows Biden down by 2.5, Trump up by 2.5, so I will put that in the lean column. That is what 2.5 would constitute as. The next state we'll go over here to the state of Iowa, which shows Trump up by 4.6. This is the state that trended heavily red in 2016, and it looks that according to the polling data, it might trend a little bit more, buck the trends, go back into the blue area a little bit more. We don't have any polling data from Nebraska in RCP, but there was a poll that showed Biden up by 11 points, and while it was an internal poll, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. It still does show that the state is competitive, and just since that's the only poll that came out, I'm just going to put it at a tilt margin just because it is an internal poll, so you have to take it with a grain of salt as well. The next state going down here, we'll actually go down to the state of Georgia. Georgia shows Trump up by 7.5. There was a more recent poll that actually showed Biden winning, but it's not in RCP, so I won't use it. But it does show that Trump is up by 7.5, which would actually buck the trend that is inevitably going to happen in the state of Georgia, pushing it into the blue column eventually. The next state is the state of Florida, which shows Biden winning by 3.2, which could buck the trend of incumbents winning in the state of Georgia. Hasn't not happened since 1980 when Jimmy Carter lost the state to Ronald Reagan. And so that would be a very interesting result for Biden to win Florida. It'll also be a very big state as well, but the next state is North Carolina, which shows Trump barely winning by 0.3 percentage points, which would give Trump a tilt margin of victory from the state of North Carolina here. The next state is going to be the state of Virginia, which we haven't had too much polling data out of, but the most recent one did have Biden up by 10, but the aggregate does have him up by 7.3, so we'll put that one into the likely column, which is probably what I would put it at my normal prediction. The next state is going to be the state of Ohio, which actually, we haven't had too much polling data recently. The most recent poll had Trump up by 3. A poll 2 months before that showed Biden up by 4. And while the Biden up by 4 is more than Trump up by 3, it was from 2 months ago, so I'm still going to put it actually in the tilt margin of victory for Donald Trump, which gives him his 219 electoral votes at this point. The next thing I'm going to go to down here, I'll actually go to the Northeast. The state of New Hampshire here shows the aggregate Biden up by 4.6, so that would be in the lean margin of victory, which would be an expanding margin from what Hillary Clinton won it by, barely won it by in 2016. Next one is Maine at large, which shows Biden up by a safe margin. While they were PPP polls, it is still what the polls say, so I'm going to put that in a safe margin of victory there. Biden's already at 263 before we even get to the Rust Belt. The next one is the state of Minnesota, which shows Biden up by 12 points, and this was all the way back in October, but it's the only polling data we have. So I guess I'm just going to put in the safe margin just because that's the only polling data that we have. If there's one polling data from most recently and then the October poll, I wouldn't include the October poll, but it's the only poll we have. The next state is going to be the state of Wisconsin, the state where the polls were the most off in 2016, shows Biden winning by about half as much, about half as much as what Hillary was winning by, 2.7 percentage points. Hillary was winning by around 5.5 or 6.5 actually. That was pretty crazy. But right now it does show Biden winning. The next state is the state of Michigan, which shows Biden up by 5.5, would actually push it into the likely margin here. We can see Biden's already at 299 electoral votes here. The next state is the state of Pennsylvania here, which actually shows Biden up by 6.5 percentage points, which is almost triple what Hillary Clinton was up by, which is a pretty substantial margin, over triple what she was up by. And this is what the overall electoral map looks like if the data were entirely based off of polls. I've made videos about this before. If you compare the 2020 election or the 2016 election compared to the polls, the only states that actually were not within the margin of error, the only state that was not within the margin of error was the state of Wisconsin. All the other states were within the margin of error here. It's just the analysts that predicted all these states to go to Biden. Even some of them predicted Arizona or North Carolina or Florida. Florida was a state that Trump was projected to win. Arizona was a state Trump was projected to win. And North Carolina was a state Trump was projected to win. He was also projected to win Ohio and Iowa, and he could have won Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was close enough. Michigan was not too close, but it was within the margin of error for many polls. The most recent poll actually had Trump up by 2 in the state of Michigan. And so you have to think that if you do see this map in terms of polling data on election day, Biden is going to win the election. There's just too many states for Trump to defend and too many opportunities for him to lose for him to be able to actually pull off another upset, another victory in the presidential election. So again, I've said this before, I said this at the beginning of the month when I did my battleground map and prediction. I do think that Biden is going to win at this point. He is doing very well. He seems to have survived the allegation here, and he seems to be doing very well overall now. And so this is what the electoral map would look like based on polling. As we get closer to the elections, we'll see more polling from more battleground states, which will give us a better picture of what the election is going to actually look like. But you also have to compare it to 2016 in terms of how accurate the polling was, how many undecided voters there were, and you should check out my video about polling data to find out what I say about that. It's mainly about the undecided voters, the reason that the polling data was off. So yeah. Thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always. Follow me on Twitter, link down in the description and on my channel page. Join the Discord, link down in the description, and I will see you guys later.